In early 2025, the world's worst fears came true. Iran and Israel, longtime rivals, erupted into open war. The conflict quickly spread, dragging in allies and proxies across the Middle East. Missiles lit up the skies from Lebanon to Yemen, turning cities into battlegrounds. Air raid sirens and explosions became daily realities for millions. In Tel Aviv, families huddled in bomb shelters. In Tehran, the night was shattered by blasts. This was no longer a shadow war. It was a direct clash threatening global stability. Diplomacy failed to keep pace with the violence. Major powers like the US, Russia, and China were forced to respond, raising fears of a wider confrontation. Oil prices soared, economies trembled, and nations scrambled to evacuate their citizens. Every missile launch and airstrike dominated headlines, but behind the news, a human tragedy unfolded. Millions of ordinary people were caught in a war they never chose. The world watched, powerless, as a new and dangerous chapter in history began. The rivalry, once simmering, had exploded, reminding everyone how fragile peace truly is. The Middle East became a powder keg, with every day bringing new risks of escalation. The shockwaves were global, affecting markets and politics far beyond the region. The war's speed and ferocity overwhelmed diplomatic efforts. The international community could only watch as the conflict spiraled. The cost was measured not just in destroyed buildings, but in shattered lives. The world was forced to confront the reality of a conflict that could no longer be contained. The war's origins were complex, but its consequences were immediate and devastating. The Middle East was on fire, and the world was holding its breath. The question was no longer if the war would spread, but how far. The unthinkable had become reality. If you want to stay informed on the real stories shaping our world, make sure to subscribe and share this video. Your support helps us bring you the truth behind the headlines. Don't miss what happens next. The roots of this war run deep, decades of suspicion and animosity. Before 1979, Iran and Israel were uneasy partners. The Islamic Revolution changed everything, turning Iran into Israel's sworn enemy. Hostility became policy, and Iran's nuclear ambitions fueled Israeli fears. Israel saw Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat and responded with sabotage and assassinations. Iran insisted its intentions were peaceful, but trust was non-existent. Proxy wars raged. Iran built the axis of resistance: Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and militias across the region. Israel struck back, targeting supply lines and proxy forces. This shadow war destabilized the Middle East for years. For Iran, opposing Israel was ideological. For Israel, it was survival. Both sides saw the other as an aggressor, leaving no room for compromise. The stage was set for a direct confrontation. Decades of violence and mistrust made the 2025 war almost inevitable. The conflict was never just about territory. It was about identity, power, and survival. Each escalation made peace more distant. The world watched as old wounds reopened. The war was the tragic result of a rivalry that had festered for generations. The fragile peace shattered with a single strike. An Israeli airstrike in Syria killed a top Iranian IRGC commander, a direct challenge to Tehran. Iran saw this as a red line crossed. Retaliation was swift. Hundreds of drones and missiles launched from Iraq toward Israel. Israel's air defenses were tested as never before. The world watched as the conflict escalated from shadow war to open battle. Israel responded with powerful airstrikes deep inside Iran, targeting military and nuclear sites. The war was no longer limited to proxies. It was now Tehran versus Tel Aviv. Iran's allies joined in. Hezbollah fired rockets from Lebanon, the Houthis launched drones from Yemen, and militias struck in Iraq and Syria. Israel faced attacks on multiple fronts, stretching its military thin. The region erupted, with fighting on land, in the air, and at sea. The initial assassination had ignited a regional firestorm. The war's scope expanded rapidly, drawing in more actors and raising the stakes. The Middle East became a battlefield with no clear front lines. The conflict's intensity stunned the world. Each side sought to demonstrate strength, but neither could control the chaos. The war's origins were clear, but its end was nowhere in sight. The spark in Syria had set the entire region ablaze. The world braced for what might come next. The Middle East was now an open, unpredictable war. The consequences would be felt far beyond the region. Iran's strength lies in its network of proxies, the axis of resistance. By activating Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and regional militias, Iran turned a bilateral conflict into a multi-front war. Israel was forced to fight on several fronts, dividing its resources and attention. Hezbollah's rocket barrages from Lebanon opened a critical second front. The Houthis' long-range missiles threatened southern Israel and global shipping. Militias in Iraq and Syria targeted Israeli and American interests. This strategy allowed Iran to wage a war of attrition, bleeding Israel without direct confrontation. The region became a web of interconnected battlefields, each attack adding pressure on Israel. Israel's edge is technology. Its multi-layered missile defense, Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow 3, protects cities from relentless barrages. Advanced jets, AI-powered drones, and cyber units strike deep into enemy territory. The U.S. provides crucial military aid and intelligence, reinforcing Israel's position. American support deters Iran's allies and boosts Israeli confidence. As the war drags on, Israel's goals expand, from restoring deterrence to destabilizing Iran's regime. Special forces target key Iranian sites and leaders, turning the conflict into a political struggle. Technology and alliance give Israel staying power, but also raise the stakes. The war is now about shaping the future of the Middle East. The war is defined by relentless barrages. Iran launched hundreds of missiles and drones, some penetrating Israeli defenses and striking cities and hospitals. Daily life in Israel ground to a halt, civilian casualties mounted. Israel's response was precise and devastating. Airstrikes deep into Iran, crippling missile launchers and nuclear sites. Air superiority allowed Israel to strike at will, but the human toll in Iran was severe. Cyber warfare raged, disrupting infrastructure on both sides. The war's technology brought destruction to civilian doorsteps. The conflict's brutality was matched only by its speed. Civilians bear the brunt of this war. In Israel, millions live in fear, sheltering from constant missile threats. Schools and businesses are closed, anxiety is everywhere. In Iran, airstrikes devastate cities and cripple the economy. Communication blackouts leave families in the dark. Lebanon and Gaza face humanitarian disaster. Thousands displaced, hospitals overwhelmed, food scarce. The death toll rises daily, with no end in sight. Ordinary people pay the price for decisions made far above them. The region is trapped in a cycle of violence and loss. For civilians, survival is the only victory. The headlines count missiles, but the real cost is human suffering. The war's true victims are those caught in the crossfire. Who's winning? It depends on where you look. Militarily, Israel's technology and U.S. support have dealt heavy blows to Iran, but Iran's strategy, turning the war into a multi-front crisis, has stretched Israel thin. Both sides face immense pressure at home, economic pain, political strain, and mounting casualties. The war has become a bloody stalemate, with no clear victor. Each success is met with painful retaliation. The real winner is chaos, division, extremism, and devastation spread across the region. There are no parades, only shared suffering. The only certainty is mutual loss. The war grinds on, locked in a deadly stalemate. Diplomats scramble for a ceasefire, but every attack risks wider escalation. The world fears a miscalculation could trigger a global crisis. Talks in Geneva offer hope, but trust is scarce. The U.S. weighs deeper involvement, while Russia and China warn of disaster. Nuclear sites are at risk, raising fears of catastrophe. The people of Iran, Israel, Gaza, and Lebanon pay the price for failed politics. Only de-escalation and renewed diplomacy can break the cycle. The world must demand an end to the violence. Without it, the shadow of war will only grow.